Hello, thank you for joining me at Bert's Books this evening. This time I fancied knocking out a quick one. I'm sorry. I didn't really want to have to do something that took a lot of research or even reading, for that matter. To which end, bizarrely, this isn't the only disco paperback on my shelves. But it's certainly worthy of attention in its funny way. This is the, I won't say novel, this is the paperback to the 1980 film Can't Stop the Music, a vehicle for the all-male singing outfit, The Village People. Now, the film came rather too late, really. The Village People had kind of climaxed, peaked at that stage as a chart act. They'd had that run of hits from 1978 through early 79. Of course, YMCA, In the Navy, Go West, to be covered by the Pet Shop Boys, I believe. But as far as the sort of chart busters went, it was a bit of a downhill slide after that. So they probably had quite high expectations. It says here from the producers of Grease. You know, on the back of that and things like Saturday Night Fever, they may have thought they had every reason to expect a nice cash-in success from this, but the timing of it as well, 1980 disco, started to plummet a bit, so it wasn't destined for great things, which, if you've ever seen it. Now, the Village People were put together by the songwriter stroke producer Jacques Morali, and this comes over almost as a possibly semi-autobiographical. The main character in this, his name is Jack Morel. Right. Now, the reason I don't talk about this as a novelisation, this is a photo book of the film, so it's like the photographic equivalent of a comic strip version of the film's plot. These were a bit of a thing in the 70s. I think I've seen Star Trek ones and things like that. But it would have been interesting to have seen them try and novelise this, to try and sort of flesh out a bit of substance to what really isn't a terribly substantial story. So Jack has just packed in his job at a record store. He dreams of writing songs that will be at the top of the charts and set America dancing. So he roller skates home. There's an early appearance from construction worker David Hodo. Clocks Jack roller skating past. The caption says, "What is this person doing in a manhole?" Now, did I mention gay yet? Because this book doesn't. Obviously, the various persona on which each member of the Village People is famously modelled on a particular kind of gay fantasy clone type, I suppose. There's a certain amount of innuendo. There's a lot of signals to this, but it's still a love that dare not speak its name. Weirdly. So Jack roller skates past, what's her name? Samantha Simpson, a very famous model who's defacing her own image on the side of a bus as he skates past. "Why aren't you at the record store? I either quit or was fired. Take your pick." They've been friends for a long time. Samantha is upset that Jack has no job, but he has written some music that he is going to play that night as a relief DJ at a nightclub called Saddle Tramps. I'm pretty much doing the talking book of this, but I care about you. I want you to do something positive with your life. The crowd is going to go crazy when they hear my music. It's show business where I belong. Meanwhile, on Madison Avenue, Sydney Channing, a very powerful modelling agent, tries to get Samantha out of retirement. So she tries to talk her into doing a milk advert. Anyway, Jack's music electrifies the crowd at Saddle Tramps. When Samantha hears Jack's music, she just can't make her feet behave, or anything else, for that matter. Like all successful people, Samantha does her best plotting and scheming while under the influence of ice cream. "Randy, you're my gym instructor. Counting out exercises like singing, isn't it?" "I guess so," says Randy, who's the cowboy. "Good. Be at my place at 8 And don't strain your voice. So we're on to our next fantasy clone figure. Philippe Rosé here. Now before you start, I gather he does claim to have some Native American heritage, which is just as well. So she's out eating ice cream and looking for singers. The next, she tracks down David Hodo, the construction worker, as he films a commercial. There he is. David agrees to come to Sam's sing-along and then slides into his favourite fantasy. What on earth could that be? Are we broad-minded enough to deal with this? Here we go. David's favourite fantasy. David sees himself singing and dancing with beautiful girls who love him to death. You see what I mean? They don't go near the subject of gay. Fred Astaire, eat your heart out. David finishes his fantasy dance just in time to wrap the commercial and to dash over to Sam's. She's making lasagne. Ron White, a young lawyer from St. Louis, has just moved to the city. He's bringing Samantha a homemade cake from her sister. This is Ron's first trip to the village. He has a lot to learn. He knocks over this little old lady. Don't worry, I was an Eagle Scout. You're in good hands. She fucking mugs him. Is this what New York was about in the 70s? Was it either the Warriors or getting fucked over by some gran? Even though Jack has a voice like a cry for help, he likes to sing as he composes. This is the main reason that Samantha makes him keep his door closed. Anyway, Ron delivers his cake. One by one, our singers turn up. First of all, beat copper Ray Simpson. Ray, incidentally, wasn't the original cop in the Village People. The original cop was Victor Willis, but by the end of '79 he was out, so we have Ray instead. This is Officer Ray Simpson. I just heard him giving a singing parking ticket. Don't believe that. I met her while I was working the Vice Squad. Anyway, there's a lot of fucking around with people's mums showing up and things, but then Jack gets the show on the road by having the guys get up to make the demo. I was finding it all a bit weird, admittedly. Your friends are a bit too far out for me. Where do you draw the line? With uptight squares like you. Goodbye and good riddance. Samantha is getting the runaround from record juicers, but Jack reminds her of one she's overlooked. What about Steve Waits? He runs Marrakesh Records. I think the Village People ended up with Casablanca. You see what they did there. There's a lot of messing around with Sam's lasagna, which she gets all over Ron's trousers somehow. I think there's some sort of romance thing sort of blooming between the two of them. Uptight square as he might be. She slips into something more comfortable. Anyway, at this stage the classic Village People lineup still isn't complete. Another discovery is made. Alex Briley. He's the squaddy. We're still missing a Leatherman. He materialises in the shape of Glenn Hughes. So they go to some audition thing, but one of the other acts is a fire eater and he sets off the alarm, the sprinkler system, so that turns into a bit of a washout. But undeterred, the group may be out of work, but they're not out of hope. They have no place to rehearse, but Ron has a few tricks up his t-shirt. And what a t-shirt it is. Exact kind of early 80s dance troupe crop top there. Not a look that's weathered the years terribly well, I feel, but anyway. Steve kind of likes what he sees, and so they get bundled off to cut their demo at Steve's recording studio. Keep it sexy, boys. Doesn't go quite according to plan. Some days everything goes wrong. Take, for instance, this audition. Felipe, your headdress is shedding. Steve secretly likes the group, but he doesn't want Samantha to know it. This way he can sign them up for less money. This is how a record mogul remains a record mogul. So Samantha feels she has to get together some money to put on a private party to introduce the group. To this end, she co-opts them into the milk commercial. Now, for some reason, I don't think it explains it here, but there's a mini-me line-up of junior Village People there. You know, there's that Queen video from the late 80s where, I forget the song, it's kind of late period Queen, where they have kids come out and sort of pretend they're little mini members of Queen. I think one of them does that leather look as well, and it's just weird. So here we go. Samantha gets her milk bath, and the village people get this kind of... They all get these nice white versions of their existing costumes. It all looks quite glossy. Everyone gathers in Sydney's office to watch a tape of the completed commercial. They love it, but the television networks think it might be too sexy. I thought it was chic and tasteful. I'm afraid I've got some bad news. Anyway, Norma, I've forgotten who Norma is, but she saves the day by inviting the group to perform at a charity fundraiser that she's putting on in San Francisco. I've got a good idea. I'm going to get Steve Waits in on this. I'm sure he liked the group and was just trying to get a bargain. Anyway, so things are popping in the Galleria in San Francisco. Thousands of people are there. The bad thing is that Samantha has disappeared and so have the costumes. The boys are nervous. Ron is upset. Sydney is trying to sign up new models. Norma is having trouble with the sound system, and they don't know if they have a recording contract or not. Otherwise, everything is hunky-dory. Somehow these contracts then materialise. Everyone cheers as they look at the contracts. Success is just around the corner. We're a group. We did it. Sam, you made it all happen. Jack made it happen with his great music. Ron is stunned. Samantha has gotten the network to agree to run the milk commercial, and she wasn't romancing Steve at all. Love can be very confusing. Ron apologises to Samantha and she accepts it. Ron asks Samantha to marry him. She accepts that too. The village people perform and the audience go wild. There is magic in the world. There you go. That's the road to success. It's that fucking simple. On top of this, you get as well as the kind of photo story. You get. To be fair, not every film tie-in will give you this colour middle section of photos, the colour album. Oh, okay. So yeah, there we go. They got their little clone. Mini-me clone kits with this fish. That's just, I don't know how well that particular aspect of it stands up to modern sensibilities. Move swiftly on from that. There's you get these colour profile shops. There's Ray the cop, in his pink uniform. Felipe there. Full headdress. David doing... I don't know what he's doing. Squat thrusts. Randy the Marlboro man there. Reel him in and brand him. Rawhide. There's Glenn, reflecting whatever profession that is. Alex, he seems like the quiet one in a way, Alex, doesn't he? He's, anyway, here he is in his silky GI get-up. Ron and Sam, the characters you don't really bring yourself to care about that much. I mean, it's a bit of fluff. It's a silly lot of nonsense. I mean, the film is, it got awards for being a really shit film. I've sat through it. It's you can't make any great claims about it, but I will say it's actually less objectionable than that fucking Sergeant Pepper film of 2 years previous. I mean, Disco, it's not making great claims to authenticity. I don't think Disco is so precious about things like that. So there's I don't think anyone made any pretense that this was some culturally important anything, but I think they probably thought it would be more of a success than it really was. But it's fun, but it's a disposable bit of fluff, as is this. I mean, this is a highly unnecessary item. So I think after this film bombed, the village people felt that they needed a bit of a rebrand. So they went for this, in their own unique way, they went in for this new romantic sort of look for the album Renaissance that kind of didn't do them any favours. And then they had a minor-ish hit, I think mid-80s. They kind of got in on that kind of high-energy sound, and they had this minor hit with, I think it was called Sex Over the Phone. And they faded, I suppose, and were kind of considered yesterday's papers for a while. But I think in recent years there's been a bit of a rethink about the village people's place in pop culture. The fact that that run of big hits they had, 78 to 79. Those are proper big, you know, disco-themed pop records of the time. And of course they snuck under the radar, these underground kind of clone archetypes. Fair play to them. Most of us know the big hits, and it only takes a couple of drinks and you know the movements. You know, we all know them. Stop.